I like it when you see the control room shots on some of the network television, and they show the control room and everybody's dancing to the music in the back of the.
Yeah, I can wake up at the control room.
Yeah, the control room. Co-host Julia Vatican is here, live and in color. She is colorful today on Friday. Happy Friday, everyone. And yes, Ed Worley, Blake Middleton, and others. We are live from Studio B here in San Francisco's beautiful Marina District. I'm your host, Tom Eamon. Welcome to the show. Show number 842 for today, Friday, the
13th.
13th. Are you superstitious, Julia?
No.
I'm not either. That's why I'm not saying a thing about Friday the 13th on today's show. Welcome, everybody. It's shortly after 1300 here in San Francisco. We do this every Tuesday.
1300 on a 13th.
1300 on a 13th. We do this at 1300 every Tuesday and Friday. Thank you for joining us. Closing in on show 850, Julia. And before you know it, we'll be to 1,000. Lots of people on already. Pedro Foiling Sailor is in Turkey, of all places. Normally he's in Sydney, but he's in Europe on a bit of a vacay, I believe. Love your scarf, Julia, he says.
Oh, thank you. Thinking of you. Red, white, and blue.
He's got a thing for you, Julia, I know.
Oh, well, I have a thing for him, too. It's a great story.
I thought it was the Spanish Senor Botín. Clay Embley. What will happen in the 13th minute of this show? Well, we'll hopefully nothing. We won't
Let's find out.
Knocked off the air. Hamish Ross is on up and early. Adam early in Auckland. Oh, it's 0800 there. It's not so early. Nice to see some real yachts at the opening. He says yes.
That's a great line.
Yeah, well, thanks to Gary Jobson for letting us have those 12-meter videos. And Fritz Mueller's in steamy Miami. Blake, we mentioned. Blake Middleton up in the land of 10,000 lakes. Clay Embley's in the wheelhouse on Breakwater Day. Alistair Murray, good day from Meetung in his vacation home, east of Melbourne, Australia. Greg Phillips, speaking of Australia, up on the Gold Coast. Sent us a few funnies, Julia.
Oh, good.
Alan Long's up in Mentor, Ohio, east of Cleveland, and on and on and on. Welcome to all of you. Thank you for joining us for this show number 842. And at the starting line, happy Friday. And Julia, happy 171st annual what?
Oh, my gosh.
See if anybody in the chat knows what we're talking about.
It's the 250th of the U.S.
250th of the U.S. Army. Hence the big the King's Day March tomorrow. Everybody's accusing President Trump of being a king. Special tribute to a genius. He was a bit of a troubled person later in life. Of course, Brian Wilson, who was one of the co-founders and leading lights for the Beach Boys, also a bit of a sailor and a supporter of sailing. Do you know that the Beach Boys had an America's Cup campaign at one point? They were sponsoring. They're no joke. They were helping to sponsor an America's Cup campaign in 1992.
Yes.
I actually met Mike Love. He picked me up at the airport. Mike Love, one of the key Beach Boys.
Yeah, right.
That's how we're going to celebrate Brian Wilson, who passed away at age 82 a couple days ago.
They were the heart of my teenage years.
Don't tell me you dated the Beach Boys as well. Every time we bring up a musical group.
But it's the vintage.
You dated them. Ed Worley's.
I didn't.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm glad to hear you didn't date some of these rockers, Julia. New York Yacht Club Regatta. Ed Worley's got it correct. That's what we're celebrating, the 171st NYYC Regattas this weekend. Fozy Focus, Admiral's Cup Revival. Credit to our super Fozy Andrew, Mr. Dr. McIrvin. And also, we got another Fozy Focus, a birthday, an 80th birthday we'll tell you about. Coaching Corner, John Emmett is in Summary and windy Weymouth, talking about rules compliance, especially deep in the fleet, which I think you'll find interesting. A brief report from John. Mm-hmm. Bravo Zulu to Peter Morton, Andrew Palfrey, and Rory Scott, who have won the 5.5 Worlds in Sopot in Poland. Nice video about that. And then we're going to feature the Star Class. And by the way, I put in the promo from the slide last night. Where is that slide? I put in that promo. You say that Chieffi and Colanino were leading the Star Europeans. Well, they have clinched it now. They've actually won it as a result of today's racing. One more race tomorrow. So Bravo Zulu to Chieffi and Colanino. They have clinched with a race to spare. We'll feature that. And then we're going to talk about the Star Class for a few minutes and about why we really should put it back in the Olympics. We got problems in the Olympics. We got problems with sailing in the Olympics. And that class is the classiest of classes in it, in my humble opinion, ought to go back in ASAP. They've got 70 entries from 23 nations at this Star Europeans regatta.
Right.
Really. Fabulous photos from Carlo Borlenghi, Studio Borlenghi, at the end of the show in the last leg from the Loro Piana Giralia Maxi Cup, where Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrvin is there. So again, thanks everybody for joining us. It's cold in Sydney and dark. Christian Price is reporting in. It's, it's just about your first day of winter, right? Your first day of winter is June 21st. Our first day of summer is June 20th or 21st. I don't remember which. Pindar is saying the Beach Boys played Scarborough's Open Air Theater on the 24th of May, 2017, and he was there. Peter Taylor checking in from New York City. David James from across the bridge. Charge of the Light Brigade, he said, also took place on this date. I didn't know that. Yeah, Steve Gruber is correct. The Beach Boys were sponsoring Larry Klein as a prospective America's Cup team leading up to 1992. So that's our show today. We're at the starting line for number 842. Thank you very much for joining us, as we are going to talk about the Star Class, the perennially classy and classic Star Class. Fabulous group that they are. Thanks to our, speaking of fabulous, our guest on Tuesday. He was at his boat shop, boat building facility in Poland. I've already forgotten how to pronounce that, Julia.
Oh, I know.
But sailing savant Luca Devoti was with us from Poland. One of our, Clark Chapin, I'm sure, would confirm this, and you looked at the views. I don't usually look at the views, but I must say I did this week, and we've had thousands of views of that show, and interesting comments from some people who you never are quite sure would watch the show, Senior Series America's Cup people, who called Luca and said, wow, I didn't know you knew so much about foiling boats in America's Cup. Your observations were spot on about what happened in Barcelona. Yeah. And he called me and said, you can't believe who I just heard from. And he wouldn't tell me who it was.
Well, that's all right.
He said, he's not a big fan of yours. I said, well, that could be any number of people. Yes. That could be Ernesto. That could be Grant. That could be Sir Ben. In any event, you know, when you say what you mean what you say, well, that's what we do on this show, thanks to you, because you support us via Patreon and beyond. Luca's boat looks very interesting. It's getting a lot of uptake. It's going to be at Foiling Week here in a couple weeks in Italia. He's got a busy couple weeks ahead of him. He also told us about his team, the 2007 Cup in Valencia, plus 39. And how really good they were, considering how little money and time they had, and the astute leadership of he and his young group of mostly Finn sailors on that boat.
Well, that's a good crew.
And what a shot. A lot of people just keep saying, boy, it's nice to see traditional yachts. Not just Hamish said that in the comments, but nice to see traditional yachts. And it was great to have him on and talking about these two teams and more. John Emmett says, plus 39 seems just like yesterday. Yep. Josh Tozo says, hola, hola, hello from Newport, Rhode Island, where summer has sprung just in time. Yes, for the New York Yacht Club Annual Regatta.
Oh, that'll be good.
And Alistair Murray says, our first day of winter is the 1st of June. It has not been summer yet here in San Francisco, Julia.
I know.
I had to turn the heat back on here in the Beach Street Yacht Club yesterday because I was freezing to death putting this show together.
I know.
Normally it warms up here in the studio. I thought it was the computers, but maybe it's your presence that warms the studio up so nicely.
We have to remember that 20 miles from here, it's 20 degrees warmer.
Well, indeed. Indeed. So I just thanks again to Luca Devoti. Also, we had this commemoration of Sly Stone and the original Rhythm King and Hot Fun in the Summertime. I still love that song. I can't get it out of my head. We sang
Where were you when that came out?
It was in the summer of 60-something or around 1970. We were sailing, and that was our summer anthem, Hot Fun in the Summertime. Well, we've had another passing of a musical great. And that, of course, that photo sent in by Ted Ryman. And, well, let's just go to the video. And it's about a 3-minute video. And I thought a very nice tribute to the Beach Boys.
Beach Boys singer Mike Love took to Instagram on Wednesday, June 11th, to pay tribute to Brian Wilson, his cousin and the mastermind behind the iconic band, following the announcement of Wilson's passing at the age of 82. "Today, the world lost a genius, and I lost a cousin by blood and my partner in music," he wrote, alongside video clips from the landmark band's career and audio of the 1998 Beach Boys song Brian's Back, which celebrated Wilson's return to the group in the mid-70s. Brian Wilson wasn't just the heart of the Beach Boys, he was the soul of our sound. From the first time we sang together as kids in my living room, I knew there was something otherworldly in him. His musical gifts were unmatched. The melodies he dreamed up, the emotions he poured into every note. "Brian changed the course of music forever," Love continued. "Our journey together was filled with moments of brilliance, heartbreak, laughter, complexity, and most of all, love. Like all families, we had our ups and downs, but through it all, we never stopped loving each other, and I never stopped being in awe of what he could do when he sat at a piano, or his spontaneity in the studio," he added. Although Love and Wilson were successful collaborators, the two occasionally butted heads over the course of the band's direction. At the height of their 60s fame, Wilson wanted to continue to move into the more experimental material featured on the band's classic 1966 album Pet Sounds, while Love wanted the band to focus on commercial hits. That resulted in the shelving of the Pet Sounds follow-up Smile, which wouldn't be fully released until decades later as a Brian Wilson solo album. Those differences also led the Beach Boys to tour without Wilson, and occasionally as two different versions of the band. But Wilson's music was always central to the Beach Boys, even if he wasn't performing with them on stage. Brian's unique artistry and our collaboration gave the world the American dream of optimism, joy, and a sense of freedom, music that made people feel good, made them believe in an endless summer and endless possibilities. It was one of the greatest blessings of my life to experience that creative space with him. Love's post continued. It was our privilege to make the world believe in sunshine, surfing, and teenage dreams. My life was forever changed by Pet Sounds, God Only Knows, In My Room, Good Vibrations, The Warmth of the Sun, and 100 other pieces of his soul wrapped in music. He allowed us to show the world what vulnerability and brilliance sound like in harmony. He was fragile, he was intense, he was funny, and he was one of a kind, he added. He continued, "Brian, you once asked, wouldn't it be nice if we were older? Now you are timeless. May you rest in the peace you so deeply deserve, surrounded by the heavenly music you helped create. May your spirit soar as high as your falsetto. May your wings spread in effortless flight. Thank you for the harmonies, the memories, and the love. Death leaves a heartache no one can heal. Love leaves a memory no one can steal. I'll miss you forever, my beloved cousin." Love concluded his message.
Yeah, Jimmy Buffett, David Crosby, Brian Wilson, Sly Stone. I guess we're getting old, Julia.
I know, but that was a champion era for songs.
What was your favorite Beach Boys song?
I don't have one because it was the setting and the whole atmosphere that it brought with it that was always good. And you could just, from the instant you heard the first 4 chords, you knew it was
California. It was youthful. It was optimism. Yep. It was surfing safari.
And I grew up in a beach town in California.
You did.
So, I mean, it was perfect.
Well, let's ask in the chat, what were your favorite songs? I see Ellen Long says Pet Sounds was inspirational to the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. I read the whole Wikipedia entry yesterday afternoon on Brian Wilson, and I was astonished how he had some real troubled times with not necessarily sex, but drugs and rock and roll.
Yeah, he did.
I mean, booze and drugs. So Joe Holtzman says the best was 409. Luca's going to sail a foiler if he makes it to Italy. That's good. Who else has a favorite? Good Vibrations, Hamish Ross like that one. California Girls.
Yeah, absolutely.
Alex Kent like that one.
Yep.
Well, without belaboring this any further, I guess my good vibrations, Clayton Embley agrees with Hamish. I guess, Julia, my favorite was probably Under Your Board Shorts, Under the Boardwalk. That was somebody else, isn't it? I think my favorite was Ba, 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 Baran. In My Room, Alan Long liked that one. But A Generation Lost in Space and Shaped by the Music, at least in part of the Beach Boys. Brian Wilson, who died age 82 a couple days ago. 1942 to 2025, may he rest in peace. David James liked God Only Knows. Fun, fun, fun.
Oh, yeah.
When my daddy took the T-bird away. It just brings back such great memories.
Absolutely.
Speaking of memories, Julia, we got a Fozy Focus underway here. Cool people, Friends of Sailing Illustrated, this show that's about news, views, and cool people.
It is.
Right? Interesting people. Speaking of one, our super Fozy, Andrew McIrvin, came in for Nice Ink in the Seahorse magazine just out. Thank you very much, Ed Worley, for sending that along. He took that picture and he looked there in the last paragraph where it says, this is the Commodore of the RORC writing, I would like to conclude by paying tribute to my predecessor, Commodore James Neville, and to Vice Commodore Eric de Turckheim, who had the vision to relaunch the Admiral's Cup, which is coming up here in a couple months, as you all know, less than. Both will be competing. James representing the Rourke in Great Britain, and Eric the Yacht Club de France, and former Admiral Andrew McIrvin, Mr. Doctor, he didn't say that, chaired a steering group. We've been telling you about this steering group, which has provided invaluable advice to the race team, and I thank each of the members for giving us their time and wise counsel. Finally, a massive thank you to race director Steve Cole and so on. So that was a very nice tribute to Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrvin.
And with good reason, because he always knows what he's talking about.
He does, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He's intimidating, actually, to have on the show.
Oh, he is. Yeah.
But what a great Fozy, super Fozy. And by the way, Yacht Racing Life out today. Paul Wyeth photo. What's taking so long? As the Admiral's Cup mandates female crew on board, top sailors share mixed views. He goes on at length about this, as has Magnus the Magnificent recently. Is it tokenism or progress? Joy Fitzgerald, Abby Ehler, and others weigh in, and the debate highlights how far offshore sailing has come and how far it still has to go. I don't know that it has to go so far, Julia. I mean, you were never very big on quotas, on mandated
No, because I was always the first one and always whatever it was.
You were a man's man, though.
But but I mean, it was always a big deal, and it always began with how terrible it was and how bad I was, and then sometime later it goes, oh.
And you weren't just bringing sandwiches up from you weren't. On It's Okay, there's a good sailor, a lady who is, I won't name her, maybe out of self-defense. We call her the wine bitch. I don't call her that.
No.
But she's very, very fine sailor, but she's happy to do that, as am I. I'll go down and get the wine and the food, whatever else.
I was always on a boat that had such a small crew that you had to do everything anyway.
Well, that is in today's. I hope you get Yacht Racing Life. This is a good piece from Justin Chisholm, Great Britain, another journalist who, like Magnus the Magnificent, is prolific. He writes almost every day, Julia. It's good stuff. Okay, switching gears here a little bit. We have another Fozy Focus. You see the gentleman there in the blue button-down, the Oxford cloth shirt up there.
Yes.
On the top row. That is Commodore Ricky Pfaff, past Commodore of St. Francis Yacht Club back in the 90s. One of the best Commodores we ever had, right, Julia?
Right.
And there is his beloved wife, Laura King Pfaff. There is Jim Nicholas, who was a grinder on America 2. That guy did more grinding and more cups in his shoulders. Now he's paying for it with his shoulders and elbows.
Yeah.
Dear friend, longtime friend, Jim Nicholas. There's the late, great Lucy Jewett.
Yeah.
Juicy Lewitt, as some people used to call her.
No.
She a major supporter of America's Cup syndicates. Do you know who that is to her left?
The mayor.
Former mayor, the late great mayor. He passed away, Ed Lee. There's the Commodore of the Commodore of the Golden Gate Yacht Club with the Vice Commodore. That is in the VIP lounge during the 2013 Cup. And we're celebrating Ricky Pfaff there.
Mm-hmm.
His 80th birthday was yesterday.
Yes.
I got a couple other photos. This was after a race win. There we are in the lounge on the right. Then after a race win, we're taking the cup in a rib back to Golden Gate Yacht Club from the VIP lounge, back to NYYC. There is Commodore Pfaff. And you can see he's got his Stag Cruise shirt on. There's Nicolo Porzio. Remember Nicolo from
Of course.
Valencia in Italy? And, of course, Norbert and his former wife down there at the bottom, and Laura Pfaff with the America's Cup. We want to wish Ricky a very happy 80th birthday.
Absolutely.
And he turned 80 yesterday, and we're going to have a big celebration for him by phone on Sunday.
Great.
We're going to give him a bell because we're having a Father's Day brunch here at the Beach Street Yacht Club for a few of us.
Right.
And I told Laura Pfaff this morning we'd give them a bell on Sunday. They're in Watch Hill, Rhode Island, where they've retired to her family home there. Happy birthday, Commodore. Happy 80th. Commodore Rick Pfaff, one of the best Commodores in the modern history of St. Francis Yacht Club, if not our beloved sport. Julia, what are we celebrating today? There's a clue there behind the lower third.
Mm-hmm.
Any idea where that is? Here's another clue. A nice, damn nerdy photo. That's Harbor Court.
Yep.
That was the commissioning there on the 10th of May. We talked about it on this show. And there is CTB, Claire the Brilliant, the Vice Commodore Claire Harrington's beautiful Magic, her 70-footer, and they are racing today. It's a 3-day weekend regatta. Is the 171st annual regatta. The New York Yacht Club. It used to be in New York. It's now up in Newport. This was yesterday aboard Magic, the crew practicing for today's racing, around the island race today. And North America's oldest annual regatta will feature 3 great days of racing, including the Around the Island race on Friday, June 13th, which is scored separately. The regatta will include classes in ORC, PHRF 1 design, and CRF. Any interested classes should contact the New York Yacht Club's esteemed and very efficient sailing office. And that is going on as we speak. Let me go to a line here. They start here in this area, Julia. Oh, I beg your pardon. Let's clear that. They start here in this area, south of the Newport Bridge. This is the Newport Bridge right here. Mm-hmm. They start in this area south of the bridge, maybe over here more towards Fort Adams. This is Fort Adams right here. Whoops, I've gone too far. And then New York Yacht Club is here in the harbor, about right there. Mm-hmm. And I haven't confused with all my drawings. Downtown Newport, of course, here. Goat Island is here. I'll go back to my square, maybe. It's easier. And then you start the race. Okay, so I lied. You start the race here, and you go out around Beaver Tail. Does that look like a beaver tail?
Certainly. Past
the lighthouse. And normally that's a beat out there. Normally there's a southerly, and it's a beat out around Beaver Tail, and then a glorious spinnaker run back up what's called the West Passage of Narragansett Bay. Start in the East Passage, of course. You get up under the Jamestown Bridge. You can look across the island and see the big, glorious Newport Bridge. You go up and around the north end of the island. That's called Connecticut Island. Sometimes it's just called Jamestown because that's the little town there in the middle. And you finish in about the same place that you started right here. And it's one of the best races, I guarantee you, in Newport, Rhode Island. A magic little harbor, Alan Long is saying. Yes, indeed. And when you get there, check out the National Sailing Hall of Fame, which is there on Lower Thames Street, right in downtown Newport, and just about right here. And go check it out because it's also a great place. That's Connecticut Island. sometimes called Jamestown because of this town, the city that's over there. And here, ladies and gentlemen, is a live shot from just before the race started today from aboard Magic in the starting area. That was the Newport Bridge in the background. They're south of the bridge. They're panning over. This is a video by Claire, and that's panning over toward Newport, Goat Island, and Fort Adams, and that is the starting area. Now they've been out around Beavertail. They're now going north up the backside of Connecticut Island, and there's a look now. She's panned back to Beavertail and the little lighthouse out there. Mm-hmm. And that is today aboard Magic, heading north up the West Passage. Again, thanks to Vice Commodore Claire Harrington for that. A nice photo from Daniel Forster of what it looks like. It's from last year's race, the Around the Island race. That's what the Newport Bridge on the other side of Connecticut Island looks like. A view from the West Passage. And then tonight, guess what, Julia?
There's a party.
There's a massive party. Exactly right. And that is last year's party. You can see the Commodore's flag up there on the yard arm, on the cross arm. And the storied and historic and esteemed New York Yacht Club has been running this regatta since July 17th of 1845. It started on the Hudson River. 9 yachts started the then 40-mile race with a 45-ton Signet. Well, Signet means swan, doesn't it? Signet in French.
Yeah.
You're the French expert. Winning an elapsed time of 5 hours, 26 minutes. The race was run in or near New York City until 88, when the club purchased Harbor Court in Newport, Rhode Island, and gave the club a waterfront clubhouse from which to run all its regattas, or most of them anyway. The current format featuring Around the Island race on today, Friday, and 2 days of buoy or navigator course racing has been in place for more than a decade. And Julia, that is what we are celebrating today, the oldest regatta in North America.
I think that's lovely.
Maybe in the Western Hemisphere.
Yeah.
And we're also celebrating, as we always do, all of you who are our supporters, not only our friends of Sailing Illustrated, but those of you who are patrons via patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. Thank you very much for your support, for giving us a few bucks a month to help us keep our studio. Somebody said I look like a preacher when I cut to this camera too and do this during this
preacher
shot.
Man.
I'll stop doing that. I'll cut the camera forward instead and give you how's my bald spot? Not too bad.
No.
Julia. That's what, you can't
Don't worry about that.
But you did. The other day you came here and you were adjusting your headset and talking about,
I don't have a bald spot.
No, you don't. That's what I told you. Cheers to Patreon support, Blake Middleton, who is one of our oldest and best patrons.
Absolutely.
He's been almost since day one.
And he's almost always the first online.
He is. Signet, Baby Swan, Baton Rouge is telling us. Thanks, everybody. We appreciate very much your support as we get into today's B block. And leading it off, as usual, is John Emmett with the Coaching Corner. He's back in windy Weymouth. Coaching Corner with our super Fozy, John Emmett.
Hi, Tom, Julia, and all the Fozy. Welcome to windy Weymouth once again. And I think missing the Tuesday show live really emphasised to me just how much I enjoy watching the shows live. Of course, I caught it in replay and I really enjoyed some of Luca's stories. And it's quite scary to me to think some of these things, 2007, are now a very, very long time ago. And to me, a lot of these things, they just seem like yesterday. And I am very keen to get involved in the D-foil. I like the idea of making foiling more accessible to everyone. And under 12k euros, that's very competitive when you think compared to a moth or even a wasp. And the other thing, which is probably applicable for a lot of venues, is the ease of launch and the ease of recovery. So at the Academy, Weymouth and Portland National Sailing Academy, we take it for granted. And that's why when I go and launch off a pontoon in Holland or wherever, I feel a bit like a beginner because I'm not quite used to that. But today's topic, and if you haven't done so already, please do share the feed, is about obeying the rules. Because I had a very interesting conversation at the Masters Nationals where they said actually, because they see it as fun, at the back of the fleet, sometimes the rule observancy isn't what it should be. And that was a really interesting topic for me, because everybody should obey the rules, because even if you're fighting for 60th place, you know, there's people who are still fighting for every point, and it's very unfair if one competitor touches the mark and the other competitors don't, you know, and that is about habit forming. And this is why I always talk about train like you race and race like you train, because if you get into the habit of training and just being always very slightly over the line, or just clipping marks, whatever, when it gets to that important race, you might do that. And sailing, to a large extent, is a self-policing sport. So I hope all the FOSI are very good people and obeying those racing rules of sailing. See you on the show this time, I hope. Sail fast, have fun, and keep safe.
Keep safe, indeed. John Emmett, get to the front of the fleet. People worried about him staying safe and not stepping in any doggy poo.
I know.
You see the comments?
Yes.
Oh, man. Pedro Foiling said, I'm not going to read his comment. If we did, you'd have to give him a finger wag, Julia. Budgie smugglers have ball spots, too. John Emmett, thank you. As we like to say at the end of his segment, we got to get parasailing reinstated for Brisbane, and our Aussie mates are working hard on that to get it reinstated for Brisbane 2032 as a demonstration event. And I hope they're successful. And anything any of you can do to help make that happen, please do, whether it's writing to World Sailing or to the International Paralympic Committee. I think the IPC, I think that's what it is called.
Mm-hmm.
And Julia, we were talking about Goat Island in that last segment.
Right.
And you saw Blake Middleton's comment. He said, yeah, does Goat Island rings a bell? He said, because 45 years ago, Blake Middleton showed up at USYRU with his resume in hand, having, I think, just graduated from college.
Mm-hmm.
And we hired him. Hired him onto the U.S. Yacht Racing Union staff.
Great.
So I've known Blake since, I think it was 80, 81, maybe 79 even. He was one of my first hires and best hires. He was a great addition.
He still is.
to our team, and he still is a great guy.
Yeah.
Indeed, 45 years later. Self-policing, best part of the sport. John is absolutely right. You should follow the rules at whether you're in the top, bottom, or middle of the fleet. It makes it more fun for everybody. And what was the famous quote from Paul Elfstrom? If you don't have... You got to finish the race with the respect of your. If you don't have the respect of your opponents, your competitors at the end of the race, you haven't won. Something like that. Somebody will put the quote in for me. Blake says it was 84. Okay, so it was only 41 years, Blake, not 45 years.
I think that was great.
Yeah. Okay. We got a Bravo Zulu here at the top of halfway through the B block, really. Well done in praise of performance. And that today is to, as we said in the show notes at the top of the show, that is going to these guys. That's the 5.5 meter class, but the 5.5 world's winners, Peter Morty, Andrew Palfrey, and Rory Scott. Bravo Zulu to them, and a nice video from the class.
2022 we had the first of the GDs, and I ended up in hospital when the Worlds were on. So that was a bit of a bittersweet moment for me, really, because Dog and Elliot won the Worlds, and I sort of missed out. But it sort of proved it was okay. And this week, we were sort of hoping that we'd have some wind, but I mean, it's not about me really, it's about the team. I mean, perfect preparation of the boat with Andrew Palfrey, and I mean, Rory just didn't put a foot wrong all week really. So the only thing, that's pretty good. If you've got a good boat, well prepared, and it's fast, and you've got a tactician that basically puts you in the right place all the time, makes it a lot easier for the helmsman, that's for sure. Yes, it is nice to get the job done, yeah.
as Marty said, you know, it's just our third Worlds as a team together. The first two, there wasn't a lot of wind, so it was a test of character on board. But you know, we survived the first day of this regatta. It was pretty light, and sailed really well that day, you know, and got some good results. So as the wind came in later in the week, we were able to use the boat to its potential. So that was good.
Very satisfying to come back from a bad day that we had on 2 days ago, and it sort of, you know, did a reset, started afresh, and thankfully, you know, went our way, and the breeze held in. There's been some fantastic sailing the last couple of days, sun and wind.
Bravo Zulu! Great video. Another Robert Deves production, Julia.
Yeah, he's done a great job. I was just thinking what a great class, the meters in general, but 5.5, it is one of those. And
5.5 and the 6s and the 8s, and even the 10s are still around, but the 8s.
Yeah.
And of course, the 6-meter worlds are happening at Sewanaka Corinthian Yacht Club later this year. Dennis Conner has bought himself a new 6. And
I really
designed
like
and built
that.
in Spain, and he's going to compete. And I'm just, why is it? That was not, you and I didn't rehearse that.
No.
To talk about meter boats. But I was a nice segue for me to say, why do classes like this, the 5s, the 6s, the stars, the laser, traditional boats, and as one of you said, real boats. Clay Embley said, wow, are those real sailors doing what sailors do?
No.
No computers, flight controllers, or helmets, or wings, or foils. Amazing.
Yeah.
And it's like Hamish Ross saying at the top of the show, oh, real boats, when he's looking at the 12 meters. But, you know, the Star class, obviously, the Finn and the Dragon and these boats, they're what populate the clubs.
The sailors.
The 470 sort of, but we kind of hurt the 470 class since we made it a mixed doubles class. And now there'd be a lot of female teams that sail 470s. A lot of male teams sailed 470s. Now we made one male, one female, and many fewer teams sail it now than in the past.
What? That shouldn't be.
And, well, it is. And it's why we think we're helping the Olympics and helping our sport by going high tech and these new classes. But I was talking with Luca Devoti the other day. He called
after the show,
but it was a day or two after the show. It may have been yesterday morning. And regardless, he called and said, how many of those Olympic classes compete at the club level? How many of those classes, and this was a really good point from the Sailing Savant.
Yes.
How many of those classes have a national championship?
Yes.
In your country, in our country, in any country. Mm-hmm. And the truth is you get 2 or 3 or maybe a couple more in each of those classes, and they don't have enough for a nationals. They go off to these Olympic classes regattas like Air, like the Princess Sophia, and they compete with the other 2 or 3 teams competing for the Olympic berths and Olympic medals, ultimately, from other countries. And it's hurting our sport badly. And just look at the laser class. That is a class. It's 50 years old.
Yep.
It's been fixed up slowly but surely. They make a little adjustment here, a little adjustment there. They have carbon mass now, or at least the upper section, maybe both.
Yeah.
And the Starboat has continued to make little changes technologically. The class is as technical as it's ever been. It's like playing a Stradivarius to tune and sail and change gears in a Starboat. And that is what our sport is all about. And there's no better class than the 5.5 or the Dragon or a few others to demonstrate what our sport, and I submit the Olympics, so sorely needs. Adam Ostenfeld, nice to see Morty win the 5.5. He's been working on that for a long time. Yeah, I think, hasn't he had one other win, Adam? Nice to see Adam on here. He was with America 2, speaking of America 2 back in the 70s, 80s rather. Andrew Dolly DeVoe, the most beautiful boat I've sailed upwind is the 5.5. I couldn't agree more, Andrew. I've sailed them on the Swiss lakes, actually. David James, unfortunately, it doesn't require a good design to be a popular design. For example, I just lost his comment. For example, the Optimist. Well, true. But the other thing is that by having classes, you know, you look at tennis and you look at Wimbledon, they haven't changed the rules. Okay, the rackets have changed from wood to aluminum to carbon. Our stuff has changed from cotton to Dacron to carbon, Kevlar and carbon. So yeah, you can make little small incremental technological advances, but tennis has stayed the same. First to win 3. Was that match the other day at Roland Garros? Was that boring? No. We were all sitting on the edge of our seats after 5 hours.
Yeah.
Went 5.5 hours almost. And then you build up history and tradition, like in the star class, it goes back to, tell me when, 19-something.
Yeah.
1920s, 1916, in 1910s. And you have history and tradition. And I guarantee you, at the Olympics I've been to, the classes that people wanted to see were the star and the fin.
Yeah.
And when I was helping the late, great Adria Kober with protocol at the 84 Olympics in Long Beach, and I was in charge of young people like His Serene Highness, the Crown Prince of Monaco.
Yeah.
And where do you want to go, sir? What would you like to see? I'd like to see the star class. And now we flicked it. Okay, we got to do something about this because our sport, if it was growing by leaps and bounds, I love the foiling. John Emmett's right. You got to have foiling. It's the in thing. It's the coming thing. But we don't need to have 10 foiling classes, let alone however many we've got. Could our sport survive outside the Olympic classes? Well, yeah, it doesn't really. The Olympic classes only survive at this point, barely survive because of the Olympics. Jody Shields, good point. Steve Gruber says there's Adam Ant. Yeah, one Adam 12 we used to call him. Adam Ostenfeld. There is a cool guy and a great sailor.
I don't think I've ever met him.
Oh, he's a good one, Julia. Gordon Smith, they're out of the Olympics, not coming back. John Emmett said the same thing earlier. Can we just be more positive and appreciative of boats? No, Gordon, I'm sorry. I'm going to argue with you. We've got to fix our sport. And sitting around here and saying, oh, c'est la vie, and what will be, we've got to start thinking about how to improve our beloved sport. And it's dying on the vine. I mean, look at what's happening. And if we're not careful, we're going to get kicked out of the Olympics. We've already had, because of the cost, because of the lack of interest now, and the lack of interest, I assert, in these foiling classes, now we've lost the Paralympics. Are we going to lose the Olympics sailing after 2032? Maybe it's better for the sport if we're out of the Olympics. I, for one, don't think so. I think it helps sailing in small countries. I think it helps sailing, women's sailing, and elsewhere. So that's the theme of the show today, as you will have seen. And Julia, what do you think?
I agree. I mean, it'd be easier to compete. And we know that there are lots of sailing nations that can't support a
and they want to be. They would, if they didn't have the Olympics in, say, Croatia.
Yeah.
There'd be no national support. There'd be no government for Tansi Stepanovic.
Right.
And it's only because he is in the Olympics. He's at the star Europeans right now, even though the star's not in, because it's great training ground, great camaraderie, and it's just a fabulous class.
Right.
Let's put fabulous classes in the Olympics. Don't invent a class for the purpose of fulfilling somebody from the equipment committee that comes and says, oh, we need to have this or this kind of a boat. And they're not a widely distributed boat. They aren't, in several different hemispheres, and they're not raced at clubs.
And they're expensive.
Excuse me. And they're expensive. Well said, Julia. Anything else, Madam Commodore?
I know, but no, it's a shame. That's all.
Clayton Embley saying, don't forget the soling. John Emmett disagrees with me. He says, times have moved on. The Star is not going to be an Olympic boat again. I beg to differ, John. I think if people really did, Francis Sweisguth nailed it in 1910. Hello, Andrew Vare. And Francis Sweisguth is the same gentleman, Julia, who designed the Interlake class, which is a small, an 18-foot version of the Star, that my dad and Clark Chapin and Joe Holtzman did race. Clark still races. I'm going to race one in 2 weeks' time at Portage Yacht Club.
Are you?
I'm going back there to race. They're putting my dad's boat in the water.
Wow.
So that I can race it. The 5.5 meter class, you just have to, again, admire this and other similar classes. Here are the top 7 of, I think there were 20 entries. Yeah, there it says at the top of the scorecard. And Bravo Zulu again there it is, the 20. Why I like the square. And by the way, I think the Fozy that when we had our test and agreed on this color green, I think that was the right color, Julia.
It is.
Bravo Zulu to Morty, and Andrew to Doggy, as Alistair Murray calls Andrew Palfrey, and Rory Scott on their win. And I really like it. Look at this.
Mm-hmm.
Robert Deves is one of the proper class publicists. He does the Finn class, the 5.5, maybe the OK Ding, I can't remember. And always the crew names are there.
Mm-hmm.
Always the yacht club is there. In fact, that's where I sailed 5.5s, was at the Thunersee Yacht Club, which is on Lake Thunersee in Switzerland. Last time I sailed 5.5s. Great stuff. Well done. Bravo Zulu. And thanks, Robert Deves, for your fine efforts on behalf of that and other classes.
Mm-hmm.
Julia. Well, let's go to World Sailing. And Luca called me, and remember I excused him from the show so he didn't have to feel pressure to opine on all this, because he's a boat builder.
Right.
He has to deal with World Sailing. He has to get class licenses and so on and so forth. And he's got a lot of private views that someday he'll come back on the show, no doubt, and share with us. But I said on the show, and I'm going to say it again, that the World Sailing, which we were hoping was, well, we knew when Quan Hai Lee was elected that we had a non-sailor as president. And he's been supported by the PRC, the People's Republic. And then he got reelected they had the meeting in Singapore, and the PRC and other flew in small countries, brought in the heads of small countries who could then vote, and he won over Jackie Roga's kid, and others who ran for president. And now we're suffering at the hands of a non-sailing president, and that is Quan Hai Lee from China, the former IOC president Thomas Bach. And we have a competent, and he's a sailor, but he's not very assertive, in the person of David Graham, who is our sports CEO at World Sailing. And as I've told you in the last couple of shows, one hears that the head of World Sailing's legal department has resigned. The head of its IT department has resigned, and apparently, I'm told, is suing World Sailing over an employment dispute. The head of the events, which is key to running this person is key to running the Olympic regatta, the events director, on staff, he has just resigned. Wasn't in that post for very long. And we hear, I hope it's not true, but Rolex is said to be scaling back their involvement with World Sailing, if not pulling out of World Sailing totally. And maybe that's because they realize they get more bang for their proverbial buck with New York Yacht Club and RORC, and with the Cruising Yacht Club of Australia for those big events, the Middle Sea race and so on, and the Big Boat Series here in San Francisco. Mm-hmm. So Rolex, we love you, and we hope that you are staying with us. And we know that they've extended, I know, with the Big Boat Series here. So hopefully they are with other clubs around the world.
And one reason is a grand affair always. Well,
Rolex, they put money, as good sponsors do, into events.
Yes.
To leverage, to activate is the word the marketeers use, to activate their partnership. Speaking of activating, we got to activate Long Beach, because this is still no decision about the 2028 Olympic venue. It's got to be here in Long Beach. Yeah. Because the more I hear out of San Pedro, the worse it gets. Now, the idea of splitting the classes between Long Beach and putting the boards there, that is the kites and the windsurfers, and then putting the boats in San Pedro, that was the latest thinking from what I was hearing, as I said on Tuesday's show, I've spent a lot of time working and talking and listening and learning about these two venues, but I'm also hearing maybe some good news.
Oh, good.
I had a text back and forth with Commodore Lisa Meyer of Long Beach Yacht Club this morning as well, and I'm hearing, and by the way, Luca Devoti is hearing, that the idea of splitting the fleets is just way too expensive. Now you got to have two separate security zones. You got to have coaches and meteorologists and race management. And notice it becomes quite a bit more expensive if you split the boards, that meaning the kite and the windsurfers, and keep them in Long Beach and move the others to make the politicians happy and move them to Pedro, as the Angelino. They don't call it San Pedro or San Pedro. They just call it Pedro. I'm going to start calling it Pedro. Maybe I just call it P for short, as in P-E-E, not capital P.
Never mind.
If you haven't pinged David Graham, do so. If you have any influence on this, they had a big budget meeting yesterday at the port of L.A.
Yeah.
And they confirmed that they're sitting on $1.5 billion of cash at that meeting. They confirmed that. Then they went into executive session. And we don't know what happened after that. But there still is pressure from some politicians, speaking of P's, in and around L.A. to move some event to the port to try to keep the port happy, to try to get the port to put money into L.A. 28, the organizing committee. It will be a nightmare if they do that from a security standpoint. It will add a significant additional cost to LA 28 to host the games, and it will be a nightmare for our sport to split the two, or even if they, let alone moving everything to Pedro. Don't do it. Speaking of Angelinos and Long Beach, Bing Bong, William Sangmeister, the idea that a fleet of meter-long surfboards with sails is more entertaining to watch than a keelboat is insane to me. There's a kid who's just graduated high school. Unfortunately, Ed Worley says the Olympics is becoming more and more an entertainment business. Sad. Yeah, Clark Chapin has been using those almost same words, Ed, for years. John Emmett, the 49er was designed for the games. What are your views on that then? I think the 49er has been exactly that, John. It's been an Olympic class, kind of a cool class, but it's not, there's no 49er sailing. Name me a club that hosts any 49er sailing unless it's an Olympic classes regatta and they bring the Olympians together from a given country, the handful of Olympian prospects, or from a region, from a bunch of countries. So it's just the bulk of the sailors, as Clay Embley points out, race keelboats, and it's what the majority of sailors understand. It's what looks, I mean, look at how good the Star looks on television. Yeah. It's like, frankly, one of the best looking boats in the Olympics ever was the FD, the Flying Dutchman, which still gets 100 boats to its worlds. And it looked great on TV because it had a high boom and you could see the skipper if they were on the windward side or the leeward side, and they had that huge overlapping Genoa jib, not very modern look, but the boat was low. It had a low freeboard. It was low slung and it looked fast. And in fact, it was fast. There was a YouTube video or a Facebook video the other day, we were talking about it, of a Flying Dutchman planing upwind. And they're big and they fill out, they fill out the television screen. So I know some of you are never going to agree with me on this, but I'm going to keep bringing it up because if Julia, sir, if the sport was booming, if the Olympic classes were booming, if Olympic classes were being raced at clubs and had national championships around the world, I'd be all in favor. But look at what Alistair and his daughter sail. They sail the Taser. They get more Tasers to their national championship in Australia by far than they do to any, if they even have a national championship for any Olympic class except the Laser. And that's a 50-year-old boat. John Emmett defends the Laser because he's the Laser king, at least the Laser Masters king. Right. John, how can you defend a 50-year-old boat? It's old technology.
And no fun to sail.
And it's a great boat. And it now it has the history and tradition of being able to look back and talk about Sir Ben Ainslie and on all the people that sailed in the Laser, went on to the Finn, went on to the Star, went on to the America's Cup, went on to Sail GP, tell me what. San Pedro is a very busy port with terrible traffic and from the hundreds of big rig trucks carrying containers.
Yeah.
Nobody will be watching sailing in San Pedro except the crane operators. Good point, Bing Bong. Okay, I've beaten this point to death, but I'm going to keep beating it. And of course, LA's got other problems, but we're not. No, the FD won't come back. I get that, John Emmett, and I'm not suggesting that it should. But again, what I am suggesting, John, is that world sailing needs to be populated by sailors, not by, I mean, half that executive board are non-sailors, just admit it. I went through them the other day with Luca on the phone after the show.
Yeah.
Maybe it was yesterday or the day before. So as Peter Taylor is saying, 49ers only at Oak Cliff that I've ever seen, still a challenge, not sure about other venues. Well, you see the 29er, which is kind of the junior training boat for the 49er. You'll see a few of those around and a few 29er regattas and maybe even a 29er national championship.
Really?
Yeah. You'll see a few of those around. But again, guys and gals, the way we used to select Olympic classes, and remember, I was vice chairman of the Olympic Committee for World Sailing, then called the Events Committee or the Class Racing Committee, whatever it was called. We used to select classes according to what was then the World Sailing Regulation, which said the class must have X many boats in the world. It must be distributed in X many countries on X many in X many hemispheres. And we selected extant, existing, current, active, keen, top classes, of which there are many. We didn't design classes and make them up and insert them into the games just because somebody had a bee in their bonnet or because of the people who build boats. Luca has a word for them, and he's one. But he said there is the manufacturing mafia who are all in favor of keeping their classes going and their classes in the Olympics so they can make money. But those classes are not getting well distributed and well used around the world because they weren't. Pick a class like the Star class where anybody can build it. The Laser, which, okay, it's got some problems, but it's got multiple manufacturers and it's distributed around the world. John, I don't know how you can argue against this because your class of all classes, 50-year-old Laser, 51-year-old Laser is a fabulous example. San Pedro, I hope it doesn't happen there. I hope the latest word I'm starting to get is that maybe they are seeing the light in SoCal, that the class representatives, the national authority representatives, people are starting to quietly weigh in, the Olympic class representatives, and saying, look, we got to do what's right for the sailors. And what's right for the sailors is Long Beach. World Sailing has sent a delegation in to look at both venues. U.S. Sailing sent a delegation in. LA 28 sent a delegation in and others, and they unanimously agreed that Long Beach was the best for sailing. They've had a lot of practice at it, too. They've hosted already 2 Olympics, 1932, 1984. Don't go to San Pedro for the sake of the croutonic politicians and money, chasing money. Give me a break. I hit my cough switch, Julie, and cleared my throat.
Okay.
There might be more TP52 nations than 49er nations. John, the ILCA is affordable for small NAs, but again, you look at the costs of some of these other Olympic classes, and if you have to buy a new 49er every 6 months, whereas a Star or a Finn lasts for several Olympiads, I mean, give me a break. Okay, again, I don't want to dwell on that anymore. I want to congratulate the people in the Star class itself because we thought Enrico and Nando were leading, and indeed they have now clinched as of racing that ended this afternoon in Italy, and Enrico and Nando Colanino clinched the 2025 Star Class Europeans with a race to spare in Viareggio. Just a fabulous sailing venue in a fabulous sailing country. Here was the press release before we went to air today. A masterclass in consistency and control has crowned Enrico and Nando as the 2025 Star Class European champions, with one race still to sail tomorrow. The Italian duo secured the title on day 3 of the regatta after another strong performance in the steady thermal conditions that have characterized the week 6 to 8 knots of sea breeze, flat seas, and blue skies
Perfect.
off the Tuscan coast. Yeah, a little light, but nonetheless, great consistent sailing. Today's first race was a defining moment with Chieffi and Colanino claiming their second bullet of the series, extending their lead, and mathematically, you know how hard it is to win a race in a 70-boat fleet, let alone 2. It's unbelievable. Extending their lead, mathematically securing the championship. Their rock-solid scoreline throughout the week showcased not only speed and tactical precision, but also a calm, focused approach under pressure. There are the top 5 standing as of tonight. Enrico, and then the aforementioned Tansi Stepanovic, Renato Conde from Portugal, Jack Jennings, who's my age, maybe older than I, in 4th. And I know not all of you agree with that point, but the idea that some of these Olympic classes, people of quite a wide age range and size range can compete.
Paul Kayard, too.
And there's Kayard, as you like to call him. Paul Kayard with George Iverson are in 5th place. Paul's the president of the class.
Yes.
The name of the boat is Vintage. You see that?
Vintage Dudes.
Vintage Dudes. And he's in the Grand Master category. He won race 2. They did. Bravo Zulu had a 2nd and a 4th. So he's in the hunt as the class president. He's got a lot on. Here he is with I believe, the president of the FIV at the opening ceremony, getting the FIV, the Federazione Italiana di Vela, little flag there to hang on his wall. There's Paul sailing and Mr. Iverson sailing, getting around the offset mark in an earlier race. In fact, there's another great look at the fleet. The windward mark there on the right, that's the windward mark here. And then you've got the offset mark over here to the left. They go around that and then go downhill. The Star class has been using that windward leeward course since, I don't know, the 90s. Is that right? With just one race remaining tomorrow, the battle for 2nd and 3rd overall is heating up. In contention are Tansi Stepanovic with Tudor Bilic from Croatia, Renato Conde and Tavi Tavader from Estonia, Portugal and Estonia, respectively, and Paul and George here from the U.S., Kayard and Iverson, with Paul McKenzie and Florian Faucheux. How do you say that in French?
Faucheux.
Faucheux? Faucheux, like for sure, Julia. Faucheux. From Australia and France, respectively, and Jack Jennings, Pedro Truchet from the U.S. and Brazil, respectively, Diego Negri and Sergio Lambertenghi from Italy, all within striking distance and eager to finish strong. Championship is hosted by Club Nautico Versilia and Società Veliccia Via Regina in collaboration with the International Star Class, the Federazione Italiana di Vela, and CONI. You know what CONI stands for? The Committee Olympic National Italy. I've actually been to the CONI, as they call it in Italy, the CONI Center in Livorno. And that's where they have their National Olympic Training Center, the way we have ours in Colorado Springs. And that also is on the coast, so they have a little sailing area there, too, at the CONI.
Oh, good.
In Italia. Sponsors G&B Rope, Slam Telemar, and CTN. Bravo Zulu. Final race tomorrow. And then it'll be followed by, of course, the prize giving. Look at these fabulous boats. Look at this fabulous class. After 100+ years, still going strong, still tuning and sailing like you've got a Stradivarius, as I said at the top of the show. Plenty of adjustments, high-tech boat, getting one of these boats and going fast in any condition, let alone then knowing how to shift gears, change gears as you're going uphill or down. The racing is extremely tight, and it's just a fabulous class, and in my opinion, deserves. There's the new European champions again, and they and this class and our sport deserve to have such a class back in the Olympics, hopefully in 2036, which I think is the next window of opportunity, not 2032, as I think those classes are sorted. If foiling is so good for the sport, why is the sport shrinking? Clayton Embley asks. Yep. In any event, we can argue about this and will, no doubt, as we go forward. But I'm just sitting here thinking about it, and I think of late people have thrown up their hands and said, why are we worried about classes? They're set until 2032. And I'm never one to be happy with the status quo, with the current situation, if it's croutonic. And I assert, as a lot of you do in the chat, that the current situation is not good. It is, in fact, croutonic, bad for our sport, and our sport is shrinking. And if you had some other metric, some other evidence, and could show that sailing was increasing at the lower level, at the local level, at the clubs, that the classes were growing within countries, that the Olympics was growing, the number of Olympic participants was growing, the number of eyeballs on the America's Cup and Sail GP was growing. Hopefully, Sail GP, the eyeballs are growing, although I have my doubts. Then you look at a class like this, and it's fabulous. Okay, I said I wouldn't rant anymore, but I am.
However.
However. Julia, you can shake your finger at me if you want.
No, I understand it. And I think that it's crazy. I mean, in some kind of way, the Olympics should be among the most popular classes, period.
Absolutely. Like the laser class.
Yeah.
Anybody that talks about kicking the laser class out of the Olympics has got Unischeisa for brains. That class is fabulous, and it's broadly distributed, wildly popular.
Yeah.
And look at, see this comment, Julia, from Pindar says, perhaps because it's not growing as quickly as the legacy lead mines are shrinking, but they're not shrinking, Andrew. That's exactly the point. There's Andrew Pindar's point.
Yeah.
Emmett says, no way we go back to the future. Well, I think we can and should. Hamish Ross is, I think, agreeing with me down in New Zealand. He's saying our sport should never become a space race if we have growth as an objective. Okay. Andrew Dolly DeVola, we'll let him have the comment of the day. See that, Julia? Maybe Olympic sailing needs a chief hype officer.
Yes.
Andrew Dolly DeVola. Well said, sir.
Well, then I nominate him.
Yeah, he should be the hype. He was a great guest. We've had a fabulous group of guests on this show over the last 9 years, almost 10 years.
Yes, indeed.
This is our 10th year. We will have this conversation, John Emmett says, in 11 years. Probably we will. Probably we will. I hope we don't, but we will. Show number 842 for Friday the 13th. And if you're superstitious, sign off now. We're not going to show any black cats or walk under any ladders. What other superstitions are there, Julia?
I only know of the 13th and the
and the 13th is not inauspicious. Is that a word? In a lot of countries, it's only in certain it's I guess in the Christian countries that have the idea that the 13th man, there were 13 men at the Last Supper, and somehow that was bad.
Yeah, I don't know.
Let's don't get into all that now, shall we? Let's get into the America's Cup and AC 38 in Naples. Look, there's a lot of Luca Devoti. Thank you. His comments, very positive comments about Naples and Italy, notwithstanding. There's a lot of bad ink about the crime, and apparently, and including, we've mentioned this before, about the crime among young kids, among teenagers and 20-somethings in Naples, and how they have taken over from the Camorra, from the mafia, and these kids are running rampant, as Wad Davis used to say. Yeah. And it's just sickening. And there are video after video. Deutsche Welle ran a video, ITV, France 24, and I was sorely tempted to put one of those in here right now, but I'm not going to. I'm hoping that they'll clean the place up, that the police will get things under control in Naples, because even an esteemed senior serious person called me the other day, who's not tangentially, directly involved in the Cup, and says, the one thing we're quite worried about is the crime.
Yeah.
It makes Barcelona look, and there's some pickpocketing in Barcelona, but Naples is a different order of magnitude, and I hope they clean it up. I think they will. I really do think they will.
They need to.
But they do need to. In the meantime, this is an ongoing discussion about the protocol. There is this new protocol out. And there is this very heavy-handed letter from, I've not seen the letter, but I've had it characterized. Actually, I've had it read to me now. That was sent by the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron to the Royal Yacht Squadron, insisting that they sign the protocol now to...
And think about it later?
To, you know what, or get off the pot.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it's really hard. It's a harsh letter. And I'm not going to run. I don't have it to run, but I have had my breakfast this morning. I'm very liverish, Gordon Smith thinks. Well, I'm just, I worry about our sport, Gordon, and I think everybody else should have some concern about where we're headed, not just sit here and report happy-go-lucky and, just carry on. Oh, this regatta was great, that regatta was great, when we got some real problems. So let's talk about them here. Where else can you talk about them other than on this show? Mm-hmm. So Alinghi are the leader of this protocol pack by all accounts, and they are not convinced that this is going to be an up-and-up deal. They are trying to put their person in as head of the America's Cup partnership, the so-called partnership, Michel Hodara, or so one hears. And there's a lot of frustration on Ernesto's part. Again, so one hears. I've not spoken with him. And the other two of the so-called big three, along with New York Yacht Club's American Magic, they're not convinced this is going to be worth raising and spending another $100-something million that they would have a fighting chance in Naples against ETNZ. Likewise, you got Sir Ben, whose club is starting... that is the Royal Yacht Squadron, by all accounts, is starting to lose interest, are not just willing to dance at the, what's the word I want? But the metaphor escapes me. But the Royal Yacht Squadron...
dance at the wedding.
Well, not at the wedding. They're not willing to have the wedding, to continue as the challenger of record, because Sir Ben, notice how I picked this shot. It doesn't have Ineos on it. Mm-hmm. It has Grenadier, which is an Ineos product.
Yeah.
The car, but I thought that was pretty good. I got a nice shot of the boat from Barcelona without Ineos on the mainsail. So I do think that the Royal Yacht Squadron is running out of patience for all this. Sir Ben needs to get not only a backer. It's one thing if somebody comes and says, hey, Ben, we'll give you $50 million and raise the other 50 million pounds or euros or dollars. That's one thing. But he's got to get the equipment from Ineos, from Sir Jim Ratcliffe, who by all accounts, I keep hearing, including from Magnus and others in the UK, that Sir Jim is not so interested in making any deal with Sir Ben at this point. So I don't know where that's going. I think you could well end up with not a deed of gift match. People are saying, what do you think of a deed of gift match? Yeah. It won't be a deed of gift match. It'll be a mutual consent match to this class of boat, the AC-75, between these two teams. Did I get the right? Yeah, Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli and Emirates Team New Zealand. And maybe the French will come in, although I'm hearing now that the French are getting cold feet too. I've heard that in the last 3 or 4 days, that they're getting cold feet and not so sure.
It's a lot of money if you know you're going to lose.
Well, you don't know you're going to lose, but if you know you don't have a snowball's chance. And the only, in fact, as Magnus the Magnificent reported the other day, the only team that probably has a chance at this stage is Luna Rossa, because they're on the water, they're geared back up, they've got backing. Pirelli has come back in.
It'd be great if they did.
They've got Prada.
Yeah.
And they've just signed another team, another sponsor, another big partner. And Margarita Marshall put this on Facebook earlier today. Margarita, whom we've spoken of fondly here on this show many times. Luna Rossa was the favorite for AC-37, but was eliminated in the Challenger final, as you all know.
Yeah.
Now strong on the experience gained and a renewed team, Luna Rossa is quickly climbing the rankings for AC-38. While rivals are swamped in protocol disputes, the Italians are already back on the water and are gaining ground, or so she asserts. And a lot of others are telling me the same thing, including privately Luca Devoti.
And Naples is a good background for cheering.
Well, yeah, and exactly, Julia, very good point. And to that point, Everyone, you asked me. Others have asked me, well, what happens if there are only 2 teams or maybe 3 teams if the French do come in, or this rumored Australian team, which everybody in Australia tells me is a pipe dream. It's not going to happen. But Magnus the Magnificent said, oh, there's going to be an Australian team. I said, Magnus, have you talked to anybody in Australia? Okay, the Winnings, that family, might want to come in, and I'd love it if they did. But man, oh man.
Well, nobody's going to sign up right now.
Well, not until there's some more certainty and there's a fair protocol, a fairer protocol.
Yeah.
So here's the other point, Julia, is that people are asking me, well, if there are only 2 or 3 teams, isn't that a disaster? No, it's not. The way these events work, and remember, I've been involved, as some of you have as well, Hamish Ross notably, in venue agreements, in host city agreements. And there's always the deal that we'll pay you this much, call it 100 million, 50 million, any number, pick 100 million. If there are X many teams, call it 5 teams. If only 3 teams show up, we're only going to pay you 75 million. If only 2 teams show up, we're going to pay you 60 million. And you know what? The event gets shorter, gets less expensive to run, yada, yada, yada. And every host city agreement has a provision in it like that. Just like a television deal, when you do a deal with a television company, there's a thing for the sponsors, the advertisers, called a give back. And you say, yes, we expect we'll have a viewership of X many million people for the show, or hundreds of thousands for the show. And if we don't reach that level, instead of you paying us X, you'll pay us X minus 20% or something. So, as Christian Price is saying, Dali, Davola, World Sailing, and others could just watch your coverage of the 18 skiffs every Sunday in the Aussie summer. It's fan-bloody fantastic, and beat trackers or triangles on blue screens every day.
Yeah.
Exactly right. In any event, it wouldn't surprise me, Julia, if we're back, as Margarita Marshall says, with an Italian team, and it will be a mega event.
Yes.
In Naples.
Yes, absolutely.
Just like those 2 pre-regattas we had there in 2006. Was it one in 06 and one in 06?
Maybe we should just restrict it.
It was in 2012 and 2013. We were the defender then. They were pre-regattas that we were running in the AC 45s, and it was 2012 and 2013 from memory. And it was both of those events in Naples were fantastic. The Camorra, the local mafia, were in charge. You didn't have these bloody they call them baby gangs, running around as they do now. And they'll get that under control, I hope, I think.
I think they will.
But there's a new sponsor. And some of you like Alfa Romeo, some of you don't. But I'm going to play all 6.5 minutes of this video to give you a feel for what I think could be the up-and-coming for AC38, and maybe only, America's Cup Syndicate.
In testa alla corsa e vi rimarrà fino in fondo. La Giulia 1600 GTA ha già strabiliato tutti al suo debutto italiano nella...
These were the dawns of a legend, the start of an extraordinary journey. 150 years later, Alfa Romeo still stands a symbol of the daring spirit of Italian automotive excellence. Signature lines, cutting-edge engineering, and pure passion for driving.
Alfa Romeo is not tributing the past. We are doing a drive into the future. We have always evolved, defied convention, and embraced the impossible. And this year, again, returning to the Mille Miglia with the wind at the wheel, thanks to Max Irena and the Luna Rossa team at the helm of the Alfa Romeo 1009 Super Sprint.
Which is the difference between steering Luna Rossa and racing the Mille Miglia at the wheel of an Alfa Romeo? Just the tarmac, the thrill, the instinct, the adrenaline. All of it is pure Italian passion. It's like turning the road into a stage. Each curve is a statement, each sound is a pulse. Performance is nothing without soul. That belonging to a story, to a vision, makes all the difference.
There is something beautifully human in all this, a balance between instinct and innovation, between heritage and the edge of tomorrow, the roar of passion, the way every detail expresses style, performance, and pure Italian sportiness.
Daring by nature, never following the easiest course, only the most ambitious. The pursuit of excellence is a mindset. It's waking up every day with a determination to be better than yesterday, to refine every detail, to face every technological challenge head-on, and to push beyond what others believe is possible.
Not just technical precision, but emotion, memory, culture, all wrapped in motion. The same pursuit of excellence, the same Italian spirit, born to move forward. They remind us why we dare, why we create, why we keep pushing, even when everything says stop. It's like looking into a mirror and seeing your own values reflected back. It feels natural. It is inevitable.
A challenge, a force to master, a limit to surpass. Whether it's wind or road, it's never just about moving. It's about the pulse behind every turn. Those who dare don't follow trends. They shape direction, driven by passion, rooted in belonging, shaped by their pursuit of excellence, powered by innovation. Where sport meets soul, where precision meets emotion, where Italian spirit moves with purpose. Two worlds, one vision, daring, competitive, relentless, shaped by the wind, defined by the road. Our journey begins.
Wow.
This partnership couldn't
I'm going to
come
end
at
it
a
there.
better
You've
time
got
or in a
the
better
gist of
place.
it, and it's a bit of repetitive from here, but it's an amazing video, isn't it?
Oh, it is. I wish I had all that language.
So I think, can you imagine seeing this in, you go to the movie theater, you go to the cinema, and you'll see this as the trailer, one of, not the trailers, but one of the commercials before the movie starts.
Yeah.
In Italian, in a theater in Italy, or you
Right.
see it on television, you see it at streaming like we've streamed it here. I just think this is going to play very well in Italy. And as a couple of you said, you know, these cars are sexy. You see what Jody says, sexy AF. These cars are sexy AF. You know what that means? As fudge.
Oh,
That's how the kids talk. Jody, the kid. These cars. And a lot of you have been, including Ted Ryman, including others, have had, with their fathers and otherwise, have had a history with the boats, or the cars rather, with the Alfa Romeo. Somebody said, just hope they don't design the Andrew DeVola said, Dolly said, my late father and I were Alfa enthusiasts. I hope Alfa doesn't design the electronics for the boats. Everybody that ever involved with Alfa said they were terrible that the electronics, you'd drive it for a day and work on it for a day, sort of thing. It wasn't quite that bad, but Bing Bong is saying he hopes. I wonder if we should have a bet here, Bing Bong. He's saying, I'm praying the livery will be metallic red for Luna Rossa. You think so? Huh?
Well, maybe.
Will it be white? Will it be silver? Will it be red?
It'll be well done.
It will be. And it'll be sexy AF, as Jody is saying.
Yes.
There's no doubt. The Italian flash flare, it'll be great. And I would not be surprised if we're just these two teams. Tell us in the chat, what color do you think Luna Rossa's livery will be for the next one? Is it going to be red? Going to be metallic red? What do you think?
Thank you.
John's still arguing about the Olympics and the Olympic classes and the cost of boats. Come on, John, get with the America's Cup and Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli / Alfa Romeo. Cool stuff.
Thank you, Italian roots. It's thanks to you that our hearts beat, and now that they beat as one. Alfa Romeo and Luna Rossa. Passion flows strong.
I don't think they would have been able to secure Alfa Romeo as a partner if the event were not in
Naples. Probably.
Maybe dollar bill green, Jody says. I doubt it, Jody. I doubt it very much. It is looking more and more like it's all about the green, and nobody is able to force Mr. Dalton to have a partnership with the challengers to show where the money's coming from and where it's going. That's what the dispute's about. As I keep saying, follow the money, and slowly but surely people say, oh yeah, Tom, you're right. Follow the money. That's what it's about. It's this other stuff. And I'm also sorely disappointed that the boats are going to be battery operated and there's human power except to steer. The rest of it is push button sailing, and I think that is
and it's too late to change that. That won't change.
I don't think it's going to change because Team New Zealand's already well down the track designing push button boats with battery operated stuff, not cyclors, and no doubt the Italians are as well. And these guys and gals at the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron, who are the trustee, the defendant trustee, and are in charge, supposedly, purportedly, under the deed of gift they are, and they've made a complete hash of this. They are the worst trustee in the history, not just the modern history, in the history of the America's Cup, or so say I. I'm sorry to say that, but great club, great people, fabulous town, hosted 2 of the best America's Cups in memory in 2000 and 2003. Julia, what happened on this day in history? Talk about stumbling around, falling down. In 1953, what a great year that was.
I know.
What happened on this date in 1953? Here's your first clue.
Who is that?
His name, see if anybody in the chat gets it. His name, Jim Peters, Great Britain. Lived from 1918 until
the 4-minute mile?
Close. Well done. Well done, Julia. He set a world record in the marathon. Not Roger Bannister. Good guess, though, Ted Ryman. He set the world record in the marathon any number of times. I think 4 times total, including on this date in 1953. He ran a sub 2:20 marathon, 2 hours, 20 minutes, and that was considered to be the 4-minute mile in the marathon. It was just the body couldn't do better than 2 minutes 20. And he set the record at 2:20, earlier, I think, in 53 or maybe even in 52. But breaking 2:20 was like breaking the 4-minute mile. And then he broke his own records in 1954. And here is one of those fabulous British Pathé videos about that.
A field of 190 lines up at Windsor Castle. A shot fired by Lord Burleigh, a great runner in his day, sends them off on their journey to Chiswick Stadium, 26 miles and 385 yards away. Away from the castle and out into the country heads the huge pack. All eyes are focused on the present marathon champion, Jim Peters, number 1. Stan Cox, number 159, is the only man likely to beat the amazing Peters, who has won this race 3 times in a row. Both are setting good time. Now it's Peters out on his own, setting a grueling pace, although he's far from well. Into Chiswick Stadium, and he's about a mile in front of the rest of the field. With his strange lolloping style, Peters battles on up the final stretch to the tapes. And in he comes to break the tape. It's a record, all right. In fact, a world record. 2 hours, 17 minutes, 39.4 seconds. A superb achievement for the gallant little sportsman.
So that was after he set the 218 on this day in history. This was a subsequent to that, I believe, in later in 53 or early 54. But then he's probably more famous for this when he was running in the Empire Games, I believe in Vancouver in 1954.
Oh, that's the one I remember.
And he was running so fast and so far ahead of the rest of the group that when he got into the stadium to the finish line, he completely lost it. And here's the video.
Dr. Roger Bannister and John Landy shook up the viewers when they both ran the mile in under 4 minutes in the 1954 British Empire Games. CBC cameras also recorded Englishman Jim Peters' valiant attempt to win the 26-mile marathon.
And late that same afternoon, a stricken Englishman entered the gates of Empire Stadium to write an agonizing chapter into the history of international games.
Dazed and dehydrated, he collapsed just 220 yards short of his goal inside Empire Stadium with the nearest competitor miles behind him.
A stunned, horrified crowd of 35,000 watched in silence as Peters was carried off.
Now, that was bad. I mean, he almost died, according to Wikipedia and other websites that I've read preparing this yesterday.
Yeah.
But he was so far ahead. He was running so hard and so far ahead, his body obviously just couldn't take it. Didn't finish and lost. But there's a sailing connection here, Commodores.
Okay.
And ladies and gentlemen, you know, I always try to have a sailing connection for this day in history. He was later awarded a special medal by His Royal Highness Prince Philip, a sailor, and of course the Queen's husband, as a token of admiration to a most valiant marathon runner.
Gallant.
Bravo Zulu. That bloke looked like me in Amsterdam a few weeks ago. Jody, you're not supposed to go to the cafes. You know what a cafe is, Julia?
Yes.
That's where they smoke pot. You know, not the coffee bars, but the cafe. So Bravo Zulu, there is a sailing connection, albeit a little remote, for that gentleman who broke the record, the sub 2 hour, 20 minute marathon record on this day in history, 1953. Speaking of topics that have come up on this show in the past, remember we talked about the Mexican takedown? And what that's all about, how you do it, and how it got named, coming into a leeward mark with whether it's an A sail.
Is that where that video is from?
No, I don't have a video of this. I do have a video, but I'm not going to play the whole thing. This is from UK sailmakers, and it's Altman Coleus here in the U.S., Ulmer Coleus, and this is from the UK office, though, the GBR office, and they did send a nice video and little press release out about the jibe takedown, about mastering the so-called jibe takedown, or what we called since '92 the Mexican, and some people call it the Kiwi drop. And here are the pictures. You're coming into the leeward mark on starboard jibe, starboard tack, and you can do this with an A sail or with an S sail. This is an asymmetric sail, and as you get to picture 2, you're turning left, turning around the mark to port, leaving it to port. And as you jibe, the kite blows in against the jib and the main, to a degree, against the mast. And that's when the pit person in the pitman or pit person, then smokes the halyard. You ease the halyard down. And the people up on the foredeck gather like crazy, and they stretch it back into the cockpit, and then they ease the tack line up there on the bowsprit, and they haul it in as the boat is rounding up on port tack in shots 5 and 6. Things are clean, and it's a quick and easy way to round a mark to port, do a jibe takedown. And the question was, how did the name come up? And we told you before, it happened in the 92 Cup. Well, here's what they said in the video that they released.
The derivation of this name is purely geographical. Buddy Melges concocted this maneuver on America Cubed during the 92 America's Cup trials in San Diego. With the prevailing winds in that area, virtually every time he came into the then-used port rounding, His bow was pointed towards Mexico.
So
in the southern hemisphere, where Mexico has little relevance, this maneuver is called the Kiwi drop. Frankly, we're not sure why it's called the Kiwi drop down under.
Sorry to step on him, but do any of you remember it being called the Kiwi drop?
Yeah, sort of.
Have you? Any of you down under, do you call it the Kiwi drop or the Mexican? I think most everybody calls it the Mexican. Jody Shields says Trump is good at the Mexican takedown. Oh, we got a little politics on the show here, an injection. The brown cafes in Amsterdam. Peter Taylor is talking about the weed cafes, the brown cafes. But back to this topic. Yeah, the Mexican or Kiwi or the jibe takedown, and Ed Worley's saying he's never heard of anything except just the Mexican. But I guarantee you that's the polite reason because Buddy was asked at a press conference. I was there, and he was asked, well, why do you call it the Mexican? And it just coincidentally, you were, if the wind was out of the kind of it wasn't even the prevailing wind direction really, but if you're coming into the Leeward Mark in San Diego in 92, in the 92 Cup, and you jibed, sometimes you were pointing at Mexico, but not always. The reason they said it was really a racist kind of a comment because it looks like such a mess when it blows in against the rig, and it looks like laundry sitting down there on the, drying out on the patio in Tijuana, the Mexican takedown. I guarantee that's where that came from.
And the last day or two was watching a finish of a race.
Yeah.
And the jib had come down and going,
yeah.
God.
The jib or the kite? Well, the modern kites, they have actually a takedown line in the middle of the kite, and it's a retrieval line. And on big boats and otherwise, and you can just trim the kite right down through the forward hatch using this retrieval line.
Yeah.
A lot of boats have done that, but that is not this. This is jibing, letting the kite blow against. You might have a retrieval line, but okay, just the Mexican. We beat that one to death. But several of you asked, how do you do it? What's it involved, and so on. So Steve Gruber says, I agree with the etymology of Mexican. A crew member of A Cubed in 92 told me that every time you effed it up, you ended up sailing to Mexico. That's a good one, Steve. But it's actually pretty easy to do. And you can do it with an S sail, with a spinnaker, a symmetrical sail as well, just by taking the spinnaker pole down before you jibe and trim the kite around and let it blow against the jib and the mast, and you've done a jibe takedown either way. And it's good in light, medium air. It's not very good in a real breeze, but so much for that. I thought we should cover that since a lot of you had asked about it, since we mentioned it some shows ago, the Mexican takedown. I don't have any video from this event, but I've got some photos from Carlo Berlanghi and from their press release. This was the Capricorno winning the Loro Piana, the Giralia Maxi, the double. And Mr. Doctor has been there, and I believe there is a video coming, but it didn't come out before we went to air. But these Carlo Berlanghi photos are just fabulous. I wanted to mention this. I wanted to use a video in the last leg because it's just so beautiful. And it was a terrific event. There's David Witt on the Hong Kong 100-footer getting not a trophy, but liquid refreshment. Being handed to him by the Commodore Yacht Club Costa Smeralda after they docked back in after the long race. And fabulous stuff. And I hope, photos from Carlo Berlanghi, as I said, and I hope we will have a video for you on Tuesday's show of that race. And Bravo Zulu in the meantime to Capricorno and to the International Maxi Association and their Secretary General, our super Fozy, Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrvin, Julia.
So magnificent watching the
Maxis.
The Maxis.
Julia, we're in the D block, and we've got a number of funnies today.
Okay.
I thought you'd like the first one, since you used to drink vodka.
Yes.
Gotta admit it, I didn't think this would work. Pouring vodka in one end and Tropicana orange juice in the other, and out comes a...
Craftsman?
A screwdriver.
Yeah.
Come on, Julia.
Oh, yes.
A screwdriver.
Yes, of course.
I dedicate that to the It's Okay team. They like to have a screwdriver on the way out to the starting line on the 50-footer that I have sailed on over the years.
Mm-hmm.
And this, of course, is a drinking show with a sailing habit, or so some of you say, even though not all of us drink. Some of us. Do you want your bourbon cream now? It's Friday.
Maybe I should.
No, we better have it. We got to give a little plug for Clayton Embley and his bourbon cream.
Yeah.
Julia? Or else they won't think we're a drinking show anymore.
I know. We've all but given up. Thank you.
That's what happens when you get old. I've stopped drinking. You've all but given up.
Yep.
But that bourbon cream is really good stuff. It's better than Bailey's, an Irish. It's better than Bailey's.
And it's nice.
You like it? And I keep
on Fridays.
I keep it right over my shoulder here, Julia,
Yes.
in case we need to tune in.
Out of my reach.
Out of your, that's right. That's right. Out of your reach. Okay, there's our first one. Here's another one. Everybody says it, but nobody actually wants to see me later. Get it?
Ow.
Speaking of Clayton Embley.
Gator later, Gator.
Okay. It's clean. Me watching the vegan couple next door arguing about the Big Mac wrapper I hid in their trash can. And again, when you get a clean one from Ryman, you got to run it, right?
Oh, yeah.
Funny.
Mm-hmm.
That's something Ryman would do, I'll bet.
Yes.
I would do that too. That's good, clean fun.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Did you ever put a paper bag of dog poo or something on somebody's stoop on their porch and then light it on fire and ring the doorbell and run away, and they'd come out and see that thing and they'd start stamping on it with we used to do that all the time, but this
bad
news.
news.
We used to do that. It was so much fun. And this one this is cleaner. This looks nicer. Busted. Looking at this is something that I can imagine.
Right.
I can imagine Sarah Sangmeister coming in when Bing Bong is on his computer.
Yeah.
Busted, looking at boat parts again. No, I swear I was watching porn. William saying, Bing Bong, I know you don't watch porn on your computer, do you, Bing Bong? Being the 17-year-old that he is. And the very bright. I mean, he graduated summa cum laude, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bravo Zulu to him. That was good. Oh, I swear I'm watching porn, Julia. That's from my daughter. She must think I watch porn on the computer or something. Father's Day is coming up for a lot of you. Not every country in the world, but this Sunday is Father's Day here in the States and beyond. And this cartoon, actually, I mainly work from home these days. He looks like me, Julia.
Yeah, he does. Except
I at least have a New York Yacht Club bathrobe on.
I was going to say your bathrobe is a little crashed.
Or a Golden Gate Yacht Club bathrobe. I have those too, and I alternate. But Father's Day this Sunday, I thought we should run that. That came from Ted Ryman as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then, Julia, speaking of fathers, and in that theme, this is a good one. Zach Berry, this is the principal, I guess, coming into the room, the classroom, saying, Zach Berry, your daddy is calling from work with a question about his computer.
Bless him. I know.
Don't you think that's good?
Yes.
Bing Bong said that was out of pocket. If it's all about the bathrobes. That came from Greg. Get Phillips? Sorry, Greg. That's a typo from our graphics department. From Greg Phillips in Australia. Finally, speaking of Father's Day, we've got some advice from a Kiwi father. Here it is.
What's the advice you give to your younger self?
Spend less time with their kids.
Spend less?
Less time with their kids. They just waste your time.
I can't believe a father would say spend less time with your kids.
No, dickheads.
What's he saying?
Dickheads.
Dickheads!
Spend less time with the dickheads, Julia.
Mm-hmm.
We said that on the show the other day, and that came from Peter Stevenson. And I still have Peter's interview with Jack Thompson, the actor who was in your favorite movie, Wind. And I got to do a little more work on it before we air it, and I hope to have that done and ready to go and on the show next Tuesday. He's traveling in Europe, Peter Stevenson, a.k.a. Pedro Foiling Sailor. The greatest Kiwi advice, spend less time with dickheads, the kids. Julia. Okay, we're to the finish line. Thank goodness we're an hour and 44 minutes into the show, Julia, and you like to say at the finish line.
Yes. I hope you listened to the comments on the way through, but now it's time to read them, and you can really see them and enjoy them. And it takes less time to read them and just to listen to them anyway.
Yep. Like, follow, and share. And we do leave the comments open. And we so appreciate all of you who give us a few bucks a month or more, or even a bottle of bourbon cream. How is that, Julia?
Oh, it's good.
Huh?
It's always good.
You sound better already. Happier anyway.
Oh, gosh, yes.
Thank you to everybody who supports us via patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. We got another nice contribution here. We are also, as I mentioned on the show the other day, we're now monetized on Facebook. So we'll get a few bucks per month from Facebook for our thousands of views, which is why.
Yes.
And that algorithm on Facebook, as Julia says, like, follow, share, because all three of those support the algorithm, and we appreciate it.
Yes, it is not hard to do.
And it's not hard to do. Also, thank you to everybody who gave us audio, video, and images for today's show, Julia. Long list as we get ready for Father's Day, at least here in the U.S. on Sunday. Any final thoughts?
No. It's probably time we give a little time to fathers, because almost all the time it's to mothers.
Al, the dickhead comments gotten quite a, well, we did Mother's Day.
Yep.
The dickhead comments getting a lot of, Alistair saying years ago, I decided if you want to work for a dickhead, you might as well work for yourself. He becoming the boss, of course, at Ronstadt, CEO for many years. And Jody Shields says, oh, you want to give a finger wag to Jody Shields? It's always hard hanging out with dickheads, is it? Okay. Happy Father's Day weekend, everyone. Yes, indeed. Happy Father's Day to all of you around the world. It's time to celebrate. You like that, Julia? It's time to celebrate.
Oh, yes, that's good.
Father's Day. Where is the celebration taking place for the U.S., Canada, and many other countries on the third Sunday, this Sunday of June? Australia and New Zealand do their own thing on the first Sunday of September. Hamish Ross explained to me that's because it's nicer weather. It's their, they're getting into the start of their summertime down there at that point.
Right.
Or springtime anyway. And Finland, Norway, and Sweden do it in November for whatever reason. The Scandinavians do. Italy, Portugal, and Spain. It's more of a, and a lot of the Catholic countries do it on March 19th, the Feast of St. Joseph. Thailand, God only knows why, I guess of their late king, Bhumibol. I will not try to pronounce that next name. In December, in Germany on Ascension Day, and other countries like China and India have traditions that vary from state to state. But here it's Sunday, and a little tribute to my dad, who fathered 7 kids. 5 lived, 2 didn't make it long term, but there is circa 67. My mother on the left, late great mother, Janice, and my dad and their brood, born in a blazer, I told you, with a yacht club patch on it there, Julia.
Right.
Huh?
Right.
And there is a more recent photo. My dad came out here, stayed at your place, didn't he?
Yes,
Stay up in your guest room?
He did.
He didn't do anything untoward, did he? He's outlived 3 wives. He's on his 4th. That was the father-son luncheon at St. Francis in 2015.
Right.
This was last summer with his granddaughter, my daughter, Meg, at the Portage Yacht Club.
That's a neat picture, too.
And I don't know if he's celebrating Pride Week there or Pride Month with his
he likes rainbows.
He
Never
does.
mind.
Rainbow suspenders, but he is 92, soon to be 92, and going strong. He is 92 and going strong. Works all day, every day. I'll be out there in a couple of weeks to celebrate the 4th of July and see the clan and do a little yacht racing. And Meg's coming is with her husband as well. So
is she? Oh, good.
We'll hang out and we'll see Clark Chapin. We'll probably do a show or 2 from there. We'll try to. In the meantime, all of you celebrating Father's Day, and best wishes, of course, to my dad in Michigan and all the rest of you around the world. Have a great rest of your weekend. Hope to see you on Tuesday, same time, same channel. And in the meantime, sail fast, sail safe, and have fun. Ciao for now.